But let's bring in my always unapologetic trio, New South Wales Liberal Senator Hollie Hughes, commentator Prue McSween, and Labor legend Graham Richardson. Well, hello.
Hi, Smithy.
Good evening.
Hi, guys.
Good evening, all.
So the National Party has come to the net zero party, Hollie. Did they have much choice, do you think?
Well, the National Party is part of the coalition. They obviously have their own party room, but I think what was clear today is the majority of the party room has come to an agreement to look at net zero in 2050, and I think that's a really positive step forward. Of course, there's always going to be opposition, and that's the difference between the Liberal Party and the National Party and many of the other parties in this place is we do allow strong debate and we do allow people to express their own opinions. But again, once that majority opinion is made through Cabinet, everyone will predominantly be on board behind that, and certainly all the Cabinet ministers will be.
Hollie, when are we going to be told the details? I want to see the plan. I want to see how this is going to be done.
Yeah, and look, I don't know what's in the Nationals plan. No one, as I know, has seen it outside of the Nationals, and in fact, not even all the Nationals, from what I understand, and the Prime Minister. But what I am confident about is the plan is going to be focused on the fact that when we move to net zero, it's not going to be through increasing taxation on everyday Australians and businesses. It's not going to be through increasing imposts on those homes and those families.
We hope.
No, we can go, absolutely. As long as it's a coalition government that's leading this roadmap, it'll be based on technology, not taxes. It'll be making sure that the affordable, reliable base power is there as required for as long as required to ensure our heavy industry can continue. We also know that our coal is some of the best thermal coal in the world, and a lot of countries are still going to want to access that from overseas, and to deny that to some of these developing countries would be racist. So absolutely, I have confidence it will be technology, not taxes, with a very strong emphasis in ensuring that an economic prosperity continues.
Prue, you'd be spitting chips?
Oh, well, they were the last hope of the side. You know, I mean, sorry, guys. You know, they've sold us out. The Morrison government did not have a mandate for this. They poo-pooed Shorten, shut on the Labor Party because they couldn't explain how they were going to get to net zero. We voted for Morrison because we didn't want to have this country sold down the toilet. And what's happened is that the government has been blackmailed, coerced into doing this by the big banks who stand to make a big buck out of it, and bullied by the rest of the world who've drunk this Kool-Aid, and they're signing a death warrant for our economy. What are they signing us up to? Why they don't have the right to go to sign any deals in Copenhagen, not Copenhagen, in Glasgow. And I just feel that, you know, we need to be told what they're going away with. What are they promising? What are they signing up for? Because we have not given permission. We don't know what they're signing up for. They could be selling us down the toilet.
It's an incredible U-turn in just 2.5 years, Richo. They've obviously read the polling. They understand they've got to be seen to be doing more. But boy, oh boy, they've got to go to the election and say the exact opposite to what they said at the last election.
They just have to hope voters forget. But there's no doubt about it. They have no choice but to do what they're going to do on the weekend. Because if Morrison was to walk into Glasgow and say no, he'd look like a complete fool. He'd be a pariah among nations. He would look terrible. The publicity would be shocking. He can't afford that. He's going up into an election in the next 6 months probably. So no way in the world. He has to do exactly what he's doing.
Who cares?
Yeah, but Prue, I'm going to jump in.
I tell you what, I tell you who cares. If you're in a marginal seat, you care, because if you go to the polls and you ignore this issue, you finish up out on your bum. That's what happens.
I don't care. Let's get someone in who's going to bloody care about this country, not about their backsides and whether they have a job.
Hollie?
Okay, can everyone just take a breath for a second?
If you think that's going to be ignored, you've got to be kidding.
So the last election we went with a 2030. It was around 2030 was at the last election, and we went with a 28% reduction on 2005 levels. Shorten went with a 45% reduction on 2030 emissions. And that's not what we're talking about now. Richo, you are more than aware politics evolves over time. This conversation has matured, but we're not talking about 2030, with what we were talking about at the last election. We're talking about 2050. And look, Prue,
When we're
You
all
came to
dead.
me 5 years
But
ago,
they
I
won't
was with
be
you.
here.
But the conversation has moved on and the technology's evolved. And whether you look at hydrogen,
Bullshit.
whether you look at lithium-ion
Forget
batteries.
Technology. You're talking about technology that hasn't been even invented yet. What about
That's
nuclear?
not true.
Why aren't you talking about nuclear? Hydrogen hasn't
I
been
would love to
tested
see
yet.
small modular nuclear. I would love to see the introduction
gotta
of small
come into the- it's
modular
gotta come
nuclear.
into the mix.
And it has to come into the mix. But we have a problem at the moment that we're not looking at nuclear. I actually
But why
agree.
aren't
Small
you?
modular
Why
nuclear
aren't
is
you? You're
definitely
a
part
member
of it.
of the government.
Because the
Look at nuclear.
Because I don't drive every part of it. Prue, you don't live in the real world. Come on. You know
Well,
I don't
you
get in
are
and drive every
representing
piece of
us.
policy and
You
agenda, and I have
people-
conversations.
You people
I think you would have read in the paper last week I stood up in Party Room.
Oh,
Yeah, I wish you'd disagree
I
a
don't
little
think
bit
that's
more.
true. Yeah, I know it's so bad. You know, this unity ticket, Smithy, it's boring.
Can I ask about migration? That'll get you throwing your bat and ball away and running home. The advocates for a big Australia are beginning to get some airplay. Industry groups, the new New South Wales Premier, the federal government, all keen to incentivise hundreds of thousands of new migrants. I accept that we need to fill workforce gaps, especially in the bush. But, Richo, do we need to go back to record immigration numbers like we saw pre-pandemic?
Oh, I don't think it really matters whether they're this big or this big or this big. In the end, we need more migrants, and I've never, ever been afraid of a big Australia. I think a big Australia is a good idea. I've always thought it, and I remain committed to it.
The last survey I saw...
And by the way, Prue's got to take a chill pill, by the way. She's getting very excited.
I am, because you're all talking bullshit. It's time that the Australian people, somebody stood up for the Australian people, and we weren't talking to politicians who are only interested in their backsides and keeping their jobs.
But isn't Richo right that if you've got a larger percentage of Australians who now want to move in to the commitment, they don't want to pay too much for it?
They don't. But
So,
Smithy,
go on.
they don't know what they're signing up for. I would tick a box. Oh, yes, I want to look after the environment. What are we signing up for? No one has explained that it's going to cost every Australian more in their power bill. We won't necessarily, we'll keep our fingers crossed if we turn our light switch on, because we don't even know if the lights are going to come on. We're going to make Twiggy Forrest really rich with his green hydrogen. But what about the rest of us?
All right.
Well, the University of Newcastle is currently printing solar panels. They are literally printing solar panels
Well, thank God,
that
so we're not at
councils
least
are using to
paying
keep all
China
their
for them all.
parks and lots of their places lit up at night.
The sun's shining and the wind's blowing, but what about the other
Yeah.
time? Look at what's
That's where we
happening
go
in
to a
Europe at the
lithium-ion
moment, who
battery.
are relying on all these
Yeah, but those
renewables.
batteries have
They've
not
got
reached the
nuclear and everything
technological
else.
reliability that we need to have.
But
hopefully
not
we'll
talking
get there.
about household, but definitely for household they'll be able to get
What
there.
about
And we're
business?
talking about the factories being built. Yeah, but we're not talking about cutting off coal overnight, Prue, and it's absolutely false
It
to
doesn't
start
matter what.
peddling
We're
that.
signing a death warrant for the future.
Look,
All right.
Prue, I don't
We're
know what you're getting
investing
upset about. We will be
$600 million
using coal
into
for
the Kurri
50
Kurri
years at
gas
least.
plant.
We'll be losing...
I'll
50
be
years.
my grandkids I'll be worried about. I'll be dead. You'll be dead. All of us will. We don't give a stuff about the
Richo's
future
never going to
because
die,
we're
Prue.
signing
Speak for
our
yourself.
lives
Richo's going to be
away.
there
Speak
forever.
for yourself, Richo. All right, I've got to call it quits here. This is far too aggressive for a Sunday night. Come on. Bring me more of this, please. Bring me more of this.
Let's talk about flowers.
Let us back into the studio together. It could get physical.
Yes, let's get physical. Hollie Hughes, Prue McSween, Richo, a
Don't pick on the
masterful
cripple if it's getting physical.
Thank you to you
We
all.
promise to leave Prue alone. Good night.
Bloody
off.
hell, this is a disgrace.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Goodbye.
All right.